Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Expedition 33 are the true Game of the Year. Now, many people have different opinions on what their Game of the Year could be. For many, it could be Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a real solid choice. For a few others, it might be Death Stranding 2, it might also be Blue Prince, or Split Fiction, or Deltarune, or any other video game. Despite all these games, which are Game of the Year in their own right, I believe that Expedition 33 and KCD 2 are experiences that you will never see before. And for many, it also changed their life. Both the games provide very different experiences. KCD 2 focuses heavily on immersion, putting players in the world of Bohemia in the 1400s. It might be all about having fun through different scenarios in that time period and the levels of curiosity in every area you explore. Whereas Expedition 33 focuses heavily on story, not a story located in France, but just the story. And to be honest, you're probably crying when you're playing Expedition 33 because it takes you through such a crazy and emotional ride. But there's more to it. In KCD 2, you follow Henry and Hans Capon on this new quest which is completely derailed by an unfortunate incident and takes away their identity. And that's where the journey of building your character again, building those stats again, starts. Everything is brand new in KCD 2. The world is Bohemia, which is usually not covered in traditional media. I personally had no idea what Bohemia is, and I had no idea about the history. This game actually told me about some of the historical things because it focuses on historical figures and the things that happened around them. That alone is very ambitious and complicated because now you have to expand on such stories and add something more that's grounded in reality in that time period. This game introduces people that you have never met before. You have never been to a location like this before with a different landscape and architecture. In fact, these people are very religious and speak in a certain way. Some of them speak English while many speak German, and you as a character having a hard time understanding them. You can even listen to the conversations that various people in this world are having. Some of them are having a love affair. Some of them are not happy with their life, and some are just sharing their life story or what they saw yesterday or the day before.
Say thumb.
Thumb?
Stick it up your bum.
Genius. It's hard to believe you're still single.
Sometimes you can see a fight breaking between two egotistical men for something absolutely silly, and you're just standing there watching as the fight happens. And that's just the immersion of the game. Every day you see these people living their actual life. Waking up every morning, having something to drink before they can go to work. All the shops open at around 7 or 8 or after that. And you can actually see people working in these shops. For example, in bathhouse, you can actually see other men coming by to get a bath. Or how a weaponsmith is sharpening the tools and weapons. In Gutenberg, which seems like one of the biggest cities of this place, you can hear people shouting at the top of their lungs when they're selling their things in the open market. And they are the same people who will tell you that the shops are getting closed in a few hours because it's the end of the day. And towards the end of the night, you can see all the shops are locked. After midnight or 1 AM, you will barely see anybody outside. So if you're following a quest late at night, you cannot speak to anybody because they're all sleeping. So you have to wake up the next day. It's a true living and breathing world that you get to experience in this time period. Just like in Red Dead Redemption 2, you can find other people who are in trouble or acting strange or chasing some wild belief. And you can have a valid conversation with all of them, and based on your choices, you can turn that into a proper quest or let them be the way they are. But since all of this is in Bohemia, the quests and the beliefs that these people have are very different. One such instance is in Gutenberg, where a German who is a master longsword wanted to challenge anyone in sword fighting. Once I had finished the fight with him, a new cutscene played where a small group accused the German of illegal sword fighting and how he cannot conduct such acts here. The German had believed that the king had appointed him as a master, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And another master was appointed in his place by another king who had invaded this country, which is the major part of this game's story. He was going to be fined and thrown away, but luckily, because of my choices, he wasn't. Now this whole thing turned into a side quest where you are now siding with this German to bring respect back to his name. The game is filled with so many interesting things like this. For example, a group of thieves believed that an arrow that was shot to their friend's head, because of which he was not dead, was a magical arrow. And after he was buried, once he did die, one of the people from this group wanted the arrow for himself, but he couldn't do it himself because that would be against their code. So I was asked to get it. However, what's interesting is what you can do when you get to that location and get that arrow back. You have 3 options. You can either slowly take that arrow out, you can yank it out of his head, or smash his head with a spade. No way, that's an option. Oh my god, I secretly want to see what happens. While the game is filled with interesting things like this, it also has a very dramatic story, with Henry truly turning into the dark side. There are various events which turn out dark, and a PTSD type scene of Henry that shows the entire scene in red and what he's actually dealing with. The story is heavily mixed with corrupt politics and how these people are in a dire situation with King Sigismund that is changing everything in Bohemia. But even the story quests changes the way you take decisions. The best example is how I found a proof of how a person who is in charge of mining is stealing some of the items that are mined to turn into silver. Once I found him in an abandoned mine, he had armed guards and he gave me a choice of being bribed by him and keeping my mouth shut, or fighting him instead. But because this game has multiple choices and not limited to the ones you have been given, I decided to be bribed and also not to keep my mouth shut. That ended up me fighting with the guards and taking even more money from this guy and getting the documents I needed to frame the real culprit. I also killed him while he was actually escaping after I promised that he won't die, and that did not help me in the next quest. The things you do in the game are wild and everything is grounded in reality, such as if you are sneaking and you are wearing armor, you will make a lot of noise. If you haven't bathed in a while, you will start smelling and people will complain about it everywhere. Especially if you're trying to sneak and get into a certain location, people will know that somebody is stinking and they will probably find you. If you punch chickens, which I did a lot in the first game, and people saw it, they will complain it to the guards and you might be punished in front of everybody. The game's immersion is everything and gives you such valuable and memorable moments that you will remember for a really long time. That experience that you get, you will never find anywhere else. Expedition 33, on the other hand, focuses purely on how they want to present the story. How can this story be presented in an authentic way that the director and writer of Sandfall Interactive want to? While the game takes place in France, with the use of some French words and outfits, it's still not a game focused on that location. The game's main concept is dealing with grief and how everyone deals with them differently with the choices they make. Again, presentation is the biggest strength of this game, and you can see that with the Gomat scene in the very beginning of the game, which for many is one of the best video game intros in quite some time. That scene is driven by cinematography, the lighting, the expression in the characters' faces, brought by the wonderful performance capture actors, and the music that is the soul of that scene. The ability to care for the characters that were just introduced is very hard, and this game is able to do that with limited interactions. The last game I remember did the same was The Last of Us. That game followed how they can present scenes in a more movie-esque way that wasn't really done in video games at that time, especially when it came to emotional and dramatic moments. For example, games made in Japan might have more of an anime style presentation, they might have a similar kind of music, the characters are probably moving in the same way and maybe voiced in the same way as well. For games made in America, there might be a more American way of presenting the scenes. Whereas Expedition 33, some might say it's more of a French way of presenting it, but it's still different and unique, and that's what Guillaume, the director, wanted to make sure that the scenes, for example, even in Gommage, does not have a lot of dialogues and is fueled by music. When I spoke with Guillaume in my podcast, he mentioned how he loves scenes like this, which has limited dialogues and more music, because that's how he would like to present his scenes. Every scene in this game has a lot of importance, whether that scene is a comic relief moment or a dramatic moment or a moment right before a boss fight. A lot of care has been given to the way every character moves in the scene, especially when it comes to a scene with the highest levels of drama. The best example is the moment between Lune and Gustav and how they're arguing, and many fans have called that scene as their favorite and also the most realistic scene they've ever seen. The fact that Lune and Gustav talk over each other, or how Gustav finishes a line that Lune is saying, shows how important that scene was to show exactly how these characters behave when they are with each other. That scene can clearly help you understand the characteristics of each character. You immediately know that Lune is focused on following a rule book and is goal-oriented, whereas Gustav sometimes can be driven by fear, at least in that moment. Scenes like this help you connect to the character even more. Miles' flashback, as the game calls it, is another perfect example. That scene's perspective has changed. The color is black and white. The pacing is a little bit slower. The music is a little bit different, again enhancing everything that they want to show in that particular scene. That particular scene presents a new mystery that generates even more curiosity in you, and now you want to know what's exactly happening here, so you want to find out the answer to this mystery. Many people have raised concern that too many games have too many cutscenes. Sometimes you're just not playing games, we're just watching cutscenes. And I understand that concern quite well. There are games like The Last of Us Part 2 that does focus a lot on cutscenes. Well, for me, it's amazing, but for many, it is not. I believe having more cutscenes can work if every scene has a reason for it to be there, to show something important in the story and to generate a particular type of emotion to help players move forward in the story. The scene right before we fight a boss to get STA his stone, Gustav and CL talk about how other expeditions might have used a way to cross this river but probably failed. That adds on the existing curiosity on what has actually happened here and what about the people that came before. And the scene also shows how powerful SK really is, again adding to the existing lore that you are seeing right now and knowing even more about the characters. Of course, the gameplay is also very important. It is flashy, it is tactical. Every time you meet a new set of enemies, you have to learn their moveset, you have to change the pictos, you have to do a number of things to make sure you can defeat these set of enemies or the next boss. For many, that might be one of the biggest things, and maybe that is what sets this game apart from any other game. While the gameplay is great, I believe that it serves as a thread between multiple moments of the story. For many people, the gameplay really reminded them of Final Fantasy and how they loved Final Fantasy with the turn-based combat, and that brought them here. For many others, they didn't like turn-based combat, but still were able to go through this game and play maybe turn-based combat for the very first time after not playing any turn-based combat. I believe that is because the story is the one that changed that perspective. Like I said, everyone has a different game for their game of the year. I want to know from you, what is your game of the year even though 2025 hasn't ended yet? Also, if you're a fan of Expedition 33 and KCD 2, check out Behind the Voice podcast where you can hear behind the scenes stories of the actors who have done amazing performances of the characters that you love from both of these games.